Township of Hamilton Committee meeting. Rise for the flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January the 5th, 2018, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 10th, 2018. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
Mayor Schenker?
Yes. We have a moment of silence for private reflection. Thank you. Tonight we have two presentations to make, and I'd like to start with Veterans Advocate Lou Green. You want to come up front? Rodney, you want to come down there with me?
I'm waiting.
Yeah. Tonight we'd like to present this proclamation to Lou Green, and I'm just going to read it real quick here. Whereas Lou Green, a longtime resident of the Township of Hamilton, joined with the United States Air Force in 1952, was honorably discharged in 1956 with the rank of Sergeant Air Policeman. And whereas in most of his life, Lou Green has been steadfast advocate for the rights of veterans throughout South Jersey, volunteering his time to a significant number of veteran organizations as well as the community at large. And whereas after nearly 2 decades of providing his knowledge, expertise, and commitment as veterans advocate to the local veterans and their families to help preserve their safety, security, and well-being, Lou Green has decided to discontinue his Veterans Assistant and Information Program. Now therefore, we, the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, on this day, November 13, 2018, do hereby honor Lou Green in recognition for his unwavering loyalty and faithful dedication to the veterans of the Township of Hamilton, although individuals who selfishly serve others and often neither receive nor want thanks of the public. We offer the sincere thanks and gratitude to him for the assistance he has given to thousands of veterans and their families who have benefited through his devotion to our community. This is, before you applaud, this is a small token of what you have done. What you've done over the years is incredible for the veterans, and it's fitting that we do this as close to Veterans Day as we can. Congratulations.
I just want to make one correction. They don't have to change this. It says Lou Green has decided to discontinue his Veterans Assistance and Information Program. What that was referring to, the 18 years that I served in the Hamilton Wall with 3 tables to Vietnam vets to help me. That's discontinued. But Lou Green will never discontinue his assistance to veterans. My phone number has always been available, even at 7:30 in the morning and 11 o'clock at night. That phone is always available. It's my home phone, and it will always be available. Lou Green would never stop advocating for veterans at any time, even beyond when they can.
For those of you who attended the veteran ceremony yesterday, you know we did honor Lou Green. But there are a couple of things I want to say. One, you can tell he's no youngster. 52 to 56, he was in the Air Force.
I don't mind. I'm proud of that.
All right. Well, but what I want to tell him is, why do you think he stayed in such good shape all this time? his wife. Yeah, she's always supported him, and I'm sure that's a big part of Lou being in shape. In fact, the first time I met Lou, we went to shake hands, and he crushed my hand.
I'm sorry.
Right. And then he told me part of his routine was, what was it, 100 push-ups a day? Or yeah. So he's been active all his life, and as he just indicated, he's going to continue to be active. He served on the Veterans Advisory Board for 8 plus or 16 years. So he's a contributor to the community, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, wife, again. For being nice to me.
I'm being kind.
Morning, everyone.
Thank you, Lou.
Okay, we have, okay, you know, as I get older, these letters keep getting smaller. I don't understand it. I'd like to bring up Michael Pittman, better known as Mikey. Another, yeah. Mikey has lived in this town for a long time, and we are very, very proud of him. And we just wanted to take time tonight to recognize your accomplishments. And I want to do the best I can to read this. The more words on here, the smaller the letters get, so bear with me. Whereas Michael Pittman is a longtime resident of the Township of Hamilton who attended the Atlantic County Special Services School and is a 2014 graduate of Oak Crest High School. And whereas for many years, Michael Pittman has been active in a large number of school and community programs, including student council, marching band, and has represented Atlantic County in the Special Olympics of New Jersey for the past 15 years, both bowling and track and field events, as you can see with the medals he's wearing tonight. Whereas in June 2018, Michael Pittman participated in the Special Olympics New Jersey Summer Games held in the College of New Jersey, winning a bronze medal in the 50-meter dash and the 5th place medal in the 50-meter walk, bringing his total of medals for the 2017-2018 season to 3 gold medals, 2 silver medals, 1 bronze, and 1 5th place medal.
Wow.
Now therefore, we, the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, do hereby declare Tuesday, November 13, 2018, to be Michael Pittman Day. In the Township of Hamilton, in honor of his remarkable accomplishments, these achievements are not only a credit to his hard work and dedication, but they are a credit to the support that he has received from his family, friends, coaches, and teammates. We congratulate Michael for his incredible success and wish him the best of luck for the many years to come. Go, Michael. For all of you, this is Michael's mom, Angela, who obviously has done a great job with this.
I would just like to say a few words on his behalf. Any accomplishments or any milestones that he does is a really great achievement for us. This is a young man that at 2 months old, he was not expected to live. His stomach had ruptured. And they had to send a special team down to Atlantic City Medical Center to transport him back to Cooper Hospital. But it was dire. They was like, they didn't expect him to make it. He was in a coma. He came out of the coma. They didn't expect him to walk. They didn't expect him to do much of anything. But this kid is running in the Special Olympics. He bowls, and he's at the top of his game. So I just want to thank you, Mayor, and the committee people for recognizing him. And we've been long residents here in the township, and You know, if you see a special needs person, a person with a disability out in the community, you know, you don't have to stare at them. You know, say hello, because they want to be appreciated and recognized and be people too. So we just want to thank you on behalf of the Pittmans. We really appreciate this and we will honor this. Thank you so much.
Good job.
And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, that's two good reasons why this is a wonderful place to live.
Amen. After all that, I want to do the rest of it. Let's go home.
Okay.
Let's leave on a good note. All right. We have additions and deletions, and the late agenda items to be considered for action tonight.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for public hearings. Anyone, Michael?
Mr. Mayor, Bruce Drive for 3A and 8B. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spoke with you earlier about the towing ordinance. I think you explained that it was, discussion was to be about fees.
Yes.
I don't necessarily have a comment or issue with fees for towing. I think towers deserve a right to make a living and earn a profit. But what I'm concerned about, and I would hope that you would discuss it, since you're on the topic of the towing ordinance,
Right.
is the contractors' services and responsibilities back. I served on Township Committee when the original, it's been since amended, the towing ordinance was adopted. And I think part of this discussion was that local businesses should have the towing contracts, which is a good idea. Townships should support local businesses. Aside from the fees, there's other responsibilities that I think that all businesses responsibilities that she should give back to the community, and that is compliance with our zoning issues. Specifically, part of the application for the towing contract is that the certificate of compliance is provided with the application. It's a yearly application, so I would hope that in the discussion, I think you might emphasize that all of the articles in the towing ordinance are complied with, not just the fees. So, and specifically the compliance issues with our zoning ordinances. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The other PD?
Yes.
The community development officer. When you get to that, I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know if you're going to explain what that position entails.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Michael? Okay, let's move on. Okay, discussions, formal actions may take place. Discussion on the towing ordinance. So, Michael, if you could give us a brief.
Well, as I understand it, the towing companies have put together some information, submitted it to Mr. Sandman about the rates. There's some comparisons with some other towns, and they're, I think, looking for a rate increase. I'll yield to Bob.
Yeah, in your packet is an email that was supplied asking for a fee adjustment associated with their services. It includes towing fees, storage fees, administrative fees, and yard fees. And it sets forth in a block what's currently there and what is requested. For example, the tow fee is currently $115. They're requesting $140. And they have also provided to you an analysis of what is permitted by way of towing cost in other towns. For example, in Galloway, it's $135, Pleasantville is $125, but Pleasantville has other charges. Washington Township is 150, Monroe is 150, Vineland is 125 plus mileage. This has not been looked at since 2006. And I've discussed this with the chief and other members of the police department that are involved. There is, I won't speak for the chief, I'll let him make his recommendation to you. But I will make sure Mr. Strye's comments are taken care of with respect to an amended ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, you have in your packet the actual ordinances. Now, some of them, there's a basic tow, and then there's a non-basic tow, which provides for an additional fee. A non-basic tow, for example, would be an overturned vehicle, a vehicle that needs to be winched out into the highway so it can be put on a flatbed, and you would expect that there would be added costs for that. Under the current ordinances, they submit to the chief a fee schedule for those, and the chief has exclusive jurisdiction to approve them. And that's a pretty good process. That has worked for us.
Okay.
So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
I've got, and perhaps I should have asked Bruce that. However, you said you're going to take care of it anyway, so maybe it's not an issue. I just wondered what aspects of the town ordinances he was concerned about that weren't being.
As I understood Mr. Strye, he is concerned that on the application to be put on the list for towing, it requires your property and your business to be in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And
There are several that are
Right.
applicable for, yeah.
Of course. And his concern is that in the first instance, when you allow a tower to be placed on the list, he has to show he's in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And that's not going to change.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
The storage has doubled, the request has doubled. Is there a reason for that?
The only reason that I can see in the packet is its comparison to other towns.
Yes.
And I guess storage could be considered to be at a premium. What I know about this a little bit is that oftentimes the vehicles are not picked up, and the storage fees rack up, and the only way the tower can get that vehicle off that property is to get some sort of title, wreckage title, I forget what it's called, and they would be able to sell it. And there's a process involved, and they go through a lot to get that done. So consequently, when you have a totaled vehicle and there's insufficient insurance coverage, it's going to sit there for a while, and eventually the fee is more than the value of the vehicle, the salvage value. So that's what I think is the answer.
So is the storage a one-time storage fee, or is it per day, or?
It's per day.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, committee,
Now,
what's your?
the reason I asked to put this on is because in order to draft the ordinance, I need your feedback on whether or not you agree with these values. And I can tell you that I've discussed it with the chief, and chief, am I putting words in
Chief,
your
do you have
mouth?
any comments? Sorry, I know you were comfy back there.
I'm never comfortable.
I know.
Just to reiterate what Mr. Sandman said, it's been since 2006. There was a lot of research done on the fees by the tow operators. We confirmed that.
Okay.
And they did look for comparison others. You'll note Egg Harbor Township's not in there, and the reason is they have their own township tow lot. So it's a little different circumstance.
All right, very good, thank you.
I have a question. Again, is yard fee similar to storage? How's that different? I just question, I'm not.
I would have to defer to Mr. Sandman on the yard fee.
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I think it has to do with, some of the ordinances provide that there's a cleanup, an environmental cleanup on the site and on the vehicle itself. And when it sits in the yard, that's also considered an environmental problem to an extent. And I think that's what it is, Judy, but I'm not 100% sure. And I can get that information to you.
Yeah.
I can get that information to you and for you before you introduce any changes to the ordinance.
I do see Mr. Dirks in the audience. He
see
could
several.
clarify that.
You could
Any,
say
I'll
something
take
about
a
it.
response from any one of you. Just address at the microphone, please.
I just, you
Help
know,
us out here a little bit. Just make sure we're on the right path.
Yard fee basically is a fee in a standard tow and a standard procedure. The owner is permitted to go to their car, get their possessions, whatever else they want to get. We have to escort them to the car to protect the car. And then that's part of this fee. Sometimes they come back a second time, sometimes they come back a third time, sometimes 2 insurance companies come, which takes time out of, we have to send someone back to the vehicle with them.
So the yard fee is basically giving people access to the vehicle for whatever purpose it is.
After the first visit.
Right, okay. All
now,
right, very
is-
good.
Mr.
Is
Dirks?
that per occurrence?
Usually just a one time. If the person shows up to get their stuff and 3 days later they come back again and say, oh, I want to go back out to the car, we charge them. If they come back a third time, depends, not normally, but if it takes a lot of time, we could. Sometimes, I've been out there for an hour and a half, people unloading their
Whatever.
possessions.
Mr. Dirks, the thing that I just discussed with respect to oil on the street, for example, the environmental part of it, oil gets on your flatbed, oil gets into your yard. Is that subject to the non-basic towing cost?
If something becomes excessive, we charge a cleanup fee.
And is that fee submitted to the chief of police in advance for approval?
We have a agreement on, what did you say there? It says,
I'm talking about the non-basic towing clause.
yeah, we have a somewhat standard fee of so much an hour. It's, I think it's $75
It
an
is,
hour.
yeah. Mhm.
Up to a minimum 1 hour. So if you work 45 minutes, it's basic 1 hour.
All right, so my response to Mrs. Link was incorrect. That was not part of the yard fee.
Correct. That is, you are.
I'm correcting,
Incorrect.
I'm correcting myself. All right, thank you, sir.
All right.
Now, is there a difference in the charge whether you use a tow truck or a flatbed?
I don't think so.
No? But if you have to winch it out, if it's in a...
That's a non-basic tow.
Now there's an additional charge, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. See you, Mikey. Okay, committee, what's your pleasure?
I think for not having any increases in 12 years, it's about time that we bring them up to going rates in comparison with a lot of the other tow companies. And I don't think any of the charges that they have listed here are out of line after I reviewed this. So I'm in favor of bringing their charges up to what they said. A tow would be $140, storage would be $40, administrative fee $35, and a yard fee $40.
Need a motion, solicitor?
No, just authorize me to draft it, that's all.
Just the,
Resolution will be fine. All in favor?
well, I'm okay with it.
Second?
I'm in favor of it.
I
I'll
think
have it on for
everybody
the next
committee's
agenda.
okay to move forward with this? Okay. Very good. Thank you. B, approval of agreement with the Atlantic County Habitat for Humanity for development of an affordable housing unit on Block 611, Lot 17, 637-2 Beacon Avenue, and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement and letter on behalf of the township. Michael?
Yes, we acquired the Beacon Avenue property at foreclosure. Had a house on it that was falling down. We demolished it with CDBG funds. We had the lot cleaned up. This is the one that had all the tires and all the other debris. Cleaned it up. Habitats, I guess, had expressed some interest in building an affordable unit on it. And Phil has met with them. They have put together this letter of agreement where we allow them to get all their approvals right up to the building permit. And just before they get the building permit, they would settle on purchasing the lot.
Okay.
So that's typically, or basically the agreement. Did I leave anything out, Phil?
So we're selling this lot to them, is that what
We're
you're saying?
giving it to them.
Giving it to them, okay,
Giving it to-
all right,
Because we're getting an affordable unit out of it.
okay. All right. Committee?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll
second
it.
it.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes,
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, Federal Marshal Training Program.
Here. Now, okay.
What we look like.
Yeah, Mr. Gashard and I were talking about, I've received some complaints. I know that he's received some complaints, and I had asked his help because I knew he had worked in the area about these loud cannon booms that we're hearing over in Hamilton Walks, where the complaints were coming from. And as it turns out, it's part of the Federal Marshal Training Program. They are demonstrating explosive, I guess, potential explosive devices, and they actually have to explode them. But I'll let Mr. Gashard elaborate, because he spoke with them directly.
Yeah, as Mr. Jacob said, I received calls, and so did he, about the loud noises appearing to emanate from the technical center. Having been in the center for a long time, I figured I'd try to track it down. It's amazing how many people seem to know nothing about it, or at least seem not to be responsible for it. The way I was able to get it finally was that I used to have a laboratory, which is right off Wrangleboro Road, and I called the employees at that laboratory, and they were well aware of it. And that's because that was relatively near to that laboratory. Well, these explosions occur several times a day. They occur during the week, during the weekdays. And after discussion, it appears as if they're going to occur until December 21st, at least for this session. Now, just to tell you what some of the people said, says, I live next door to the blast, and it rattles every window in my house, drives my dogs crazy, and sounds like a bomb going off. This is destroying the quality of life and must stop before it causes an accident. Another one says, last Saturday it started at 10 a.m. Oh, Saturday. That should be unusual because I was told during the week. But anyway, last Saturday it started at 10 a.m. During the week it's usually 2:30. Today it seemed extra loud, where the windows rattled and the house shook. My cat hides every time it starts. Yes, it's annoying, and just how much is it really needed? Someone else said, yes, so annoying. What are they for? Another, it happens almost every Monday through Friday at 2:30ish. About 3 times, and a final one says, it makes me jump, it's extremely loud and scary when I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what was happening, etc. And that's just a few. I'm sure there are more people that have complaints. I called the several tech center, as I said, organizations. I finally found the FAM, the responsible supervisor, after talking to an acting person, and it turns out these are conducted by the Homeland Security, by Federal Air Marshal Service, which is under Department of Homeland Security. It's I guess a special program, which he says is essential special training. I asked, well, isn't it possible to conduct this in another location? They claim that no, that's really not feasible. Apparently, they've looked at locations and decided on this one, and there is some kind of facility there. So I asked them, well, why couldn't these explosions be simulated? Why is it necessary to actually have explosions? I'm told that's an absolute requirement. It's a firm requirement, and it has to do with the security of air travel. Then a statement was made that it was coordinated with the police chiefs of the surrounding communities. And we had at least, I believe our chief was not aware of this, and I know the administrator hadn't been coordinated with him either. A suggestion was made that it was coordinated, and we agreed. And we should have known about it. So that's the situation. These are going to plan to continue until December 21st. In addition, some other explosions may occur also. I asked whether this would be continued in the future, and they said, well, no, they didn't have any definite plans for it, but that is certainly a possibility. I checked to see whether maybe the Pinelands or the Department of Environmental, what is it, pollution? Had any jurisdiction over this. The DEP said no, they didn't, and it's federal land, so I don't think the Pinelands Commission would have much influence over it. Actually, what was suggested by the DEP person was that the mayor call the governor's office. So that's the way we'd probably get some response. But that is the situation. I guess the question is, what do we do about it? If I make a suggestion, I think one thing we need to do about it is send a letter to or somehow communicate to the people in Hamilton Walk what's going on. Because that, they didn't know what was happening, and they certainly should know. And I'd be interested in finding out this coordination process where they figure they say they coordinated with us, and nobody knows anything about it. That process has to change. And then the call to the governor's office, I don't know. I think that's up for discussion.
First thing tomorrow morning.
All right, there we go.
Can I just say one thing? I'm a resident, I live on Final Approach, I live on Manheim Avenue, and I've lived there for over 60 years.
Excuse me, can you please come to the mic so we can pick
Say
you
your
up?
name, please.
Sorry.
I just wanted to inform, which I'm sure you realize, that Galloway Township, Egg Harbor Township, and Hamilton Township boundary, right at the airfields, are all being affected. Hamilton Walk, thank you for stepping up. But it's been going on, and it is rattling. It actually sounds like it's possibly underground, because when I'm in my basement, it's much worse. We've had people come, real estate people that leave. It's affecting our properties, the quality of our property. If we want to sell our properties, it's really, really affecting the residents of this area, and it's a lot of us. And we're very concerned about if there's anything that can be done.
What is your name?
Linda Pridgeon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if I might say, I think this is something which we definitely need to follow up on. And I'm sure there are other ways that they can get the mission accomplished without these explosions, especially explosions of the intensity that they are.
Michael, before I get the governor on the phone, is it possible for you to reach out to the EHT and the Galloway administrators and find out if they're having the same complaints? Maybe if we go in and complain as a group, it would get a little more attention.
Will do.
Okay? Thank you. All right, we'll look into it. We'll see what we can do.
Just one, can we agree that we'll send some correspondence or let the people over there know what's going on? I think they certainly should know.
And we could contact our assembly and senator from this area also.
Yes.
I'll call the senator in the morning.
All right. And how about the residents? Can we get something to them?
How about the newspaper?
Yeah.
Not everyone gets the news.
Okay? So we have no formal action with this. We'll move on to public hearings and adoption of ordinances. A, ordinance 1887-2018, an ordinance amending the portion of Chapter 94, Veterans Advisory Board. Now, Michael, if you want, I think we're just adding 2 alternates, and that's what this is about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's pretty simple, straightforward. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm the commander of the local VFW. I'm also the chairman of the Veterans Advisory Board. The issue we have, but essentially, is people work. Our attendance, as Rodney can attest to, is sometimes less than what we really need to complete our mission. That's why the request.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public like to speak?
Motion to close public portion.
Second.
We have a
Second.
motion and second to close public portion. We have a motion to carry the ordinance.
So
I
moved.
so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We
Aye.
need a roll call, please.
Roll call.
Mr.
Okay.
Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Introduction of ordinances. Public hearing will be held December 17, 2018. A, ordinance 1888, 2018, an ordinance adopting a redevelopment plan for the entirety of the Township of Hamilton, a designated rehabilitation area.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, this ordinance and the redevelopment plan have been prepared by Redevelopment Council Maley's office. Basically just touches on all the requirements of the local redevelopment and housing law. Does not make any changes to the zoning. It's just, checking the boxes. Have you addressed this? Have you addressed that, et cetera? It's, as he calls it, a plain vanilla redevelopment plan. It's being scheduled for the December 17th because the next action requested as part of this is, by law, it has to be referred to the planning board for their review and recommendation, and it gives them time to review it at their December 6th meeting.
In this ordinance is a resolution stating.
I believe that's item
Yeah.
item 1 underneath the introduction, yes.
It's all part of the same.
No, it'll be two separate votes.
Okay.
One vote to introduce and then one vote on the resolution, please.
Okay, very good. So we have introduction of this ordinance. What's your pleasure?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Rita, do we need a roll call vote?
Do not.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Yeah, I did have a discussion item on this,
Okay.
though. In our previous discussions about this, we've talked about the fact that these are significant ordinances, and they are complex, and they're going to require some decisions on our part, and they are very positive. So our developers and our community need to know about it. I think we talked about the fact that we're going to set up a meeting or some form, open house, to discuss what this is about. I just want to find, do we have a feel for when that can occur? So people have an idea?
Well, there's another couple steps in this
Yes,
process.
we're
One
not-
of them is
we're not
identifying
at that point yet.
what will qualify and what won't qualify. It may be better to have some of that information at hand.
Okay, so,
Because they're going to ask, those are all be questions, I'm sure. Does my-
so do you think sometime maybe in the first quarter of next year would be reasonable?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
Good.
that was my question.
Okay, number one, resolution authorizing the Township of Hamilton Planning Board to review and proposed redevelopment plan for the Township of Hamilton.
So moved.
second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Awards of bids, contracts, change orders. A, resolution authorizing year number one option of bid 2017-10, janitorial services contracted to Action Janitorial Incorporated in the amount of not to exceed $42,000.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
Yes. And I think I know the answer to this, Mike. But did we try to get the veterans interested in this? Do we have any veteran-owned businesses that showed an interest in this?
This item was not rebid. This is an extension of the.
Oh, I'm
of the-
sorry, that's right, it's an extension.
But that's a good idea. I mean, it's posted up at the sign, and I think, trying to get as much interested in as you can,
Yep,
it would be a good thing, but,
We actually did, a couple years ago when we bid it, we did a veteran set aside first, but the price came in double what this price was.
yep, but that doesn't mean that's gonna happen all the time, though. We certainly don't expect that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
What's your pleasure?
so moved.
Second,
Motion and second. Rita? Roll call.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carry.
B, resolution authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for design and construction management and administrative services, Cotillion Boulevard. project with Kevin Dixon of Dixon and Associates LLC, not to exceed $68,000. It's your pleasure.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, all those, roll call vote, please, Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Resolution authorizing award of bid 2018-10, tree and stump removal and tree trimming services for the Township of Hamilton to Rich Tree Service Incorporated, 325 Bergen Street, South Plainfield, New Jersey, not to exceed $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion
Second.
and second. Are there any questions?
Yeah, just a basic question. We have many tree removal services that are local, but I guess none were competitive, huh?
But we had one other bid, and it wasn't,
Galloway.
I think it was
One
Galloway.
other bid.
Yeah.
With all the tree services we have here, that's
There's pretty
interesting.
demanding criteria of how quickly they have to respond and things like that, so it might not suit some schedules.
All right, thank you.
So that's,
Any other questions? Rita, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Resolution to amend Resolution 2017-0435, not to exceed the amount for award of bid 2017-08 tree and stump removal and tree trimming services to RPM Landscaping Contractor LLC from $3,000 to $10,000.
There's such a jump, Michael.
We've already spent over the 3,000. This will get us through the end of the year.
Okay.
We had a lot of trees removed from the park,
So moved.
Memorial Park.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
I have a question. The trees that were planted, at a parking lot, are they included in this program of stump removal?
Trees that are planted where?
The ones that all died along our parking lot out here. We had
Well-
several trees that were planted, and a lot of them died. Okay.
No, Mrs. Link, that was done under a DEP grant. In fact, that has not been closed out on the final. It's still under the warranty period.
Okay.
DEP is supposed to be coming down Friday to inspect the vegetation with representatives from Remington and Vernick in the township. And if there's anything that, doesn't meet the success ratio, then they'll have to be replanted by the contractor.
Okay, that was my question.
Any other questions? Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
E, resolution authorizing the purchase of road salt from the Atlantic County Co-op for the 2018-2019 winter season in the amount not to exceed $232,000.
Mike, how does that compare to last year's?
But probably about half that we spent,
Okay.
maybe a little over half. But we wanted to have plenty because you can't come get an approval in the middle of a storm, so. Right. It doesn't mean we're going to spend it, it just means we're allowed to spend up to that much if the emergency requires it.
So now that we're
This
talking
is,
about this, how's our salt shed doing?
We're getting there. They had some issues with the design. The contractor wanted to change some of the design criteria in the foundation, and our architect didn't permit it. So they had to go back and forth a few times. So they're supposed to break ground any time, any day now.
So will this salt be going in the new building or the old building?
The old building.
Okay.
Does this salt include the salt for the schools?
Yes. Yeah, theirs is a very small amount.
Okay.
No, we put a scoop in their trucks and they do their parking lots with them. I mean, it's not, we don't go do their parking lots.
You
We just load their truck and charge them for so much per ton.
Oh, okay, so it's as needed.
Yes.
Okay, basis we supply it.
Move that resolution, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second it.
Motion is second. Rita, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
F, resolution authorizing change order number 1, 2018 road program net increase of $3,250. Michael?
Yes, there was some additional drainage work put in out on 32nd Street.
Oh, okay.
It was about 26 feet of additional drainage, and this was a charge for that. It's the first change order for the 2018 road program.
Did
Okay.
it work with this rainfall, Steve?
It worked perfectly. I mean, we had a lot of rain overnight, and I was out there early this afternoon. It was dry. I talked to Brett this morning. The basins over at Atlantic Electric were filled up, but our drainage system was dry, 36.
Great. Thank you.
Is this the one that affects Chancellor Place?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had money in the road program to cover this?
Yes.
Okay.
Move that resolution, Mayor.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
G, resolution authorizing change order number 2, 2018 road program net increase of $80,810.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yep.
This change order is rather large. So I did an analysis of our current bond funds available, and if we approve this change order, in order to do West Jersey Avenue, which is part of a grant, we're going to have to do a bond ordinance in January to do the work in April or May. So it's going to require probably a bond ordinance of $80,000 to $100,000 to finish West Jersey Avenue. So I just want to put that on the record that we'll need to do it in January. We'll put the money in the temporary budget for the down payment, which we can do.
This change order is for,
This is for curbing on both Pennington Avenues, both sides.
Oh, that's right.
Long over.
Was this,
The curbing.
okay, was this, I think I asked you, this is part of the road program, right?
Yes.
Okay.
so to do the road, Pennington Avenue is part of the road program. This is not. This is an add-on,
This is an add-on. The curbs were not in the bid.
which you're selling.
Well, the curbs were bid, but not the curbs on Pennington. We have a price per unit price, and he held that unit price, is my understanding.
Yes.
For the curbing.
Okay,
So it's actually
so
a
we're gonna-
bid price, but it wasn't bid with the program. It's not in the 605,000.
So we're going to borrow $100,000 to put curbs on Pennington?
No,
Essentially,
Yes?
yes.
Okay.
100.
So you
Well-
clarify something for me. Are curbs or are they not part of our road program?
Well, the only other road I have really to base it on was Park Avenue. When we did Park, we did the curbs.
Well, in our planning for roads, are we including curbs?
We should.
Is that part of our policy
Yes.
or?
Well, we don't have a formal adopted policy, but it doesn't make much sense to pave the road and leave the curbs in bad shape. Now, not all curbs have to be replaced. I mean, there might
Well,
be a road where they're in good
Yeah,
shape.
that was my question, yeah.
Yeah,
An example of that would be what the county did on Main Street,
Right.
when they repaved Main Street and didn't address the curbs. So there's big chunks of curbs all along Main Street, the park, and everywhere falling into the street, but yet we have new streets. So the smart thing to do would be to do the curbing and then do the paving, I would imagine.
I think it really depends upon where the road is being fixed. Definitely Pennington and both areas need curbing. But if you decide to put curbing everywhere where you improve the road, you would destroy drainage. And we've seen that on Park Road.
Yeah, we wouldn't
I don't think
install a
anybody's
new curb.
suggesting that, at least I'm not.
We wouldn't install a new curb, because then you got to do different drainage work.
Yeah,
This is replacement curb.
yeah.
You're correct, yeah.
And I don't know, I asked if it's part of our policy. I don't know whether it would make sense to do this everywhere as a general policy. But we ought to have some agreement as to, when the curbs are part of the road program, because
Yeah, I think we're going to include them in all, the repairs to curbs in all programs.
Why
They
weren't
might-
they in the original bid?
Just didn't get done. Just missed it.
Okay. Committee?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the change.
I'll second it. It's going to be a long time again before anyone touches those streets. So to do it right going in, they're necessary. I agree with what John said about the paving on some of the county and state roads where they've neglected to do this, and it was almost at a whim. The way the drainage happens, you know, specifically in this area here, where we have a preponderance of curbing, we should consider, and it should be put in any bid package where it's necessary to address it, so that we have a better idea up front what the overall contract's going to look like. But I second it.
And of course, if we do that, that increases the price of our road program.
Well, of course.
Well, we understand that.
Any more comments? The motion is second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Schenker?
I'm a no.
4 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Consent agenda? Oh,
You have
excuse
an
me,
H.
excuse
Got
me.
H.
Time out. 6H.
How could you forget them?
I know. I feel bad. Resolution to award bid 2018-13 for Tavistock Subdivision Road Improvements to Arawak Paving Company Incorporated for the amount not to exceed $558,950. I am told that this is for some fencing also, all the road work and some fencing.
This includes the fencing of 5 retention basins and 1 storm drain, in addition to the paving, the milling and paving.
What's the total amount of all that in, Mike?
It's the $558,950. That's with all the change, all the alternates included. There's enough funds. We started with $650. We spent $45 in engineering so far. So there's a little bit of room left over in case there's other engineering problems or issues or any other costs.
So when, and I know there was some talk about little curb here, curb there, can that money be used on?
I think it's picked up all the bad curves.
No doubt.
Just a quick recap of Tavistock. It's paving of all where there was never top coat of paving. It redoes the intersection going into the community center. That's a disaster, and that's going to get raised. There's 5 lots that have not been built on, so there were never any sidewalks. So there's sections in there where we're going to install concrete sidewalks so the residents could travel through the whole entire subdivision. There's a storm inlet at 29 Gasco that was, I think, hit by maybe snow removal. That's in the original section. The section's done. So somebody about 6 months ago came to a committee meeting and said, when you're doing the program, could you fix that B inlet casting? So that's included. It doesn't include any, actually there is some curbing replacement at the intersection of where the community center is, but it doesn't include any other curbing or anything else in the subdivision. But we there's a little bit of money left over of the $650,000. So as we go along, maybe we could use some of that. But it's pretty all-inclusive. It's everything we wanted, and it's 5 stormwater basins that are filled with water. We're putting a 4-foot high fence and a pretty high-quality fence around all 5 stormwater basins. So it's everything we wanted on our wish list and the paving.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you're fixing that bump in front of the community center, because that's a surprise to all the visitors that come in there, an unwelcome surprise. But
yes.
Can I ask, what kind of fence are you going to use?
It's a split rail fence.
Okay. So they can see.
It has the tight wire mesh so that no children could climb.
It's like the one at Danielle Court, right?
It's the same detail that's on Danielle Court, which is a pretty high-quality fence.
Okay. Okay, good.
And it looks very nice, too.
I just want to point something out since I see Lou here and all of the folks from Tavistock. The settlement agreement has been properly executed, but we're still waiting for a formal resolution of the Board of Directors authorizing the execution of that. And we're also waiting for an insurance agreement adding the township as a named added insured, and that has not been delivered yet. I sent a letter to Mr. Wishnick last week.
The resolution was done, you should have had that.
You're right, I should have.
Yeah, so I'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
We had a resolution drafted, I approved the sign off on it from the board, I fact, each one of us check off that we approved it. It had to be changed because there's 3 board members at the time, so we had to approve a revision to that. But that's been done. So let me follow up with Mark where the heck it is. That just amazed me. The insurance, I'll follow up on that as well.
Thank you. I will follow up on it as well.
Thank you.
So just if I might ask a question, does that mean that we can't really move ahead forward until we have those things done?
Normally, I would like to say yes, but in this particular case, I'm going to say no, that we can move ahead.
Yes.
Steve has done tremendous
right.
efforts before he was authorized to do so.
Right.
I'm not going to hold it up on the condition that I just heard. Are you still the chairman?
Yeah, I'm still the president. We understand.
Luke, please come up to the microphone. Thank you.
We understand the conditions of the agreement. I'm amazed about the resolution because not much after that I pushed to get it done. So it should have been done, it should have been in your hands, so I will follow up on that tomorrow. The insurance, I will admit, I didn't contact our management company about that, so I'll take fault on that one, but we'll do that immediately tomorrow. So both of those things will get done ASAP. We want this done, you know we want this done. We all work together, it's very hard to get it done and get it out the bid as soon as we can. And so I'll take care of those two.
I would recommend not holding it up for that purpose.
Yeah, we're not gonna hold these items up. It was an oversight somewhere along the line, I can't explain the amendment at all. But we
Okay.
will make sure the resolution, we'll make sure you get all that stuff,
All right. Very good.
okay?
Thank you.
I move that resolution, Mayor, to award the bid 2018-13 for Tavistock subdivision road improvements to Arawak Paving Company for an amount not to exceed $558,950.
Second it?
A motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Kishore?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Back in 2011, when we voted up here to pull the bond, we never thought it would take this long. And, you know, there's been a lot of perseverance in there. No one ever anticipated that the developer of that subdivision would go bankrupt. But perseverance on your part has been admired, okay? And I think it's been long overdue. And I think that once it's paved, I mean, that will put to an end some of the misery that you had to put up with for these last 7 to 8 years.
Absolutely.
And look forward to you enjoying your community the way that you anticipated it would look when you first moved in there. So my vote is yes.
I really, I didn't say no.
We have a,
I'm in
we
the
have
middle
a, not right now.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve items A through W.
Second.
A motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Number 8, personnel. Resolution to appoint Karen Adams to a part-time communications officer for the police department at $15.92 an hour, effective date to be determined.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Need a roll call?
Yes, 1 second. Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, resolution to appoint Robert Lerner as a full-time communications officer, 1, for the police department at a yearly salary of $40,451.81, effective date to be determined.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, resolution appointing Mackenzie Hankins as a full-time communications officer, 1, for the police department at a yearly salary of $40,451.81, effective date to be determined.
Michael, these people have been moved up from part-time to full-time, correct?
Right.
Okay. I'll move that resolution.
Second.
A motion and second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
D, authorization to advertise for a community development director. Michael?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Mr. Sartorio has given us his notice of retirement. He's
Okay.
going to be leaving us at the end of March. We would like to hire his replacement in December so that we can have some cross-training, because Phil wears a lot of hats and there's a lot of detail in what he does, and we'd like to get someone hired right away and get some training done. Included in your packet is a copy of the advertisement we're proposing, or we're asking for your approval for. Mary and I worked with Phil to come up with his list of job duties and went by the job description. That's what we're asking for your approval for, to go ahead and advertise. This will require a committee to do the interviewing. Community Development Director job.
Mike, this job would include all the hats that he currently wears
Yes.
now, right?
Yes.
Is marketing a part of this job description?
Maybe in
A
the-
little bit. There's a little bit in the job description about it, but it's not a primary job duty.
Well, what,
Where so many hats, is it possible to have 2 people hired?
Well, we had 2 people when we downsized, when we did the layoffs.
Okay.
When Nancy Rainbow retired, we didn't fill her position. Steve Mayman retired, we didn't fill it until a couple years later, we filled it with Hannah. So there was 2 jobs for this, but
Well, it's a thought because he wears so many hats. It's difficult sometimes when you do wear so many hats and looking at well, we don't know who's going to apply, but
right. We'll know
thought.
more when we get the applications on whether
yeah, it's
he's
a thought.
successful or not.
That's a good point, though, that Judy brought up, that we could possibly look at the possibility of getting someone else to take that extra duty off, have one of them hats away or something if we had to make sure that we were able to stay up current with the proper enforcement.
Maybe you could sit with Phil and discuss about if he had any thoughts in that manner, how he would handle it if he had an option to do it that way and the finances were in order to handle it.
I have no problem, no problem doing
Please.
yeah, also, I think 2 areas of emphasis, at least from my perspective, would be the marketing, doing what we can to get out there and get the kind of businesses that we want here, and then providing assistance to these businesses that come in, so we have a more, quote, business-friendly, unquote, environment. We hear so many people complain about that, and it's an area where perhaps we could get more relief on our tax bill if we could get the right people here. So I'd like to suggest that the marketing and the business development, is that the right term, or business facilitation, be part of the requirement.
It is part of the job description, but in reality, it gets very little attention because of the
lot of
extra duties
stuff
we
there.
added we added the planning, all the planning to the job when Nancy Rainbow retired, so
And
it
the
is in the
planning-
job description.
And the planning is going to take a good deal of this person's time with our redevelopment, the ordinances we just signed off on, especially if it's done properly.
Okay.
I think that we're putting the cart before the horse here a little bit, because there's a lot of discussion on what exactly this person is going to do. I know other towns have put on part-time planners to help with marketing and stuff like that. I mean, there is other, from what I'm hearing here, there's interest in possibly looking at this job as maybe 2 jobs instead of 1 job. So before we put this out to advertise, maybe we should get a clear and concise direction that we want to go.
I know the merchants, and you probably know too, have some ideas, at least some members of the merchants group have some ideas about what should be included here. I don't know whether they've communicated that to you, but it might be worth looking at least what concerns they have.
The only concern I have with that is the timing. We don't want to take too long. We want to move on it to get somebody on board. So if we can do that quickly.
Since committee's going to, as a whole, interview the candidates, it could become a question, Rodney, when you're talking during the interview, and get some of the thoughts on that and how they would view it from other areas. I agree we need someone for business development, but I also agree with Michael that the timing's important. By the time this goes out, don't forget, you're leaving, March, end of March, so that's a relatively short time to find someone to fill those shoes.
Well, hopefully he won't leave us high and dry. He's not skipping out of town, I hope.
You seen the smirk on his face?
Can't help us, though.
He said he can't help us?
Can't volunteer for 6 months.
Oh, that's right.
Well, so it doesn't have to be volunteer. I mean, if we really need his services.
Can't hire him.
We can't what?
Can't hire him, fill part-time after he leaves because of the pension laws. He has to be out for 6 months.
One of the things that I think might be doable is you have all the things that he does. You can aggregate the ones that sort of relate to each other and interview for those and get people started or get the person started and then go forward. It's a thought.
I think we'll learn a lot when we see the applications and the resumes, so whether or not the person or the people that apply have the skill set for all these duties or we only get some that are certain duties. It's just that adding another position is a big step for us. And we're gonna
financially.
The money for it, is a big step.
Well, I still think we ought to advertise.
Right.
So I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. We do have to advertise.
Motion second. Any questions? Phil, how long you been here?
15 plus years.
So we're going to make a decision to advertise for a position. For the person that we're going to hire is going to be here for at least 15 years. And we're doing it right now like this.
Better change the ad then, put that in.
Well, I'm just, this township's changing, and we got to change with it. And if we're not going to, we're just going to keep, no offense, Phil, you've done a great job, but we are trying to do something a little different here. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that we're going to do the same old thing that we're doing again, I think we're making a mistake.
I concur with that.
I don't think he indicated you were going to do the same old thing that we've been doing. I think we're learning from change because it has opportunity for some and it presents challenges for some and difficulty for others. I don't think we're to lock ourselves in a position. We don't have anybody in that position by March.
We have 4 months to the end of March. How long does it take to hire somebody?
Yeah, but they
30
have
to
to be
60 days
schooled.
when it involves the committee. That takes time.
What's this?
30 to 60 days. The backgrounds, and they gotta give notice and things like that.
Yeah, right.
I myself would like to have a chance to take a harder look at this write-up, make sure it includes everything that should.
Think you can have it done by the next meeting?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can, but of
Then I'll
course
withdraw my motion, so you can do that.
Well, hopefully all the board members get a chance to, committee members get a chance to do that.
I think he needs to get started, because it's going to be difficult to get someone who is on board by the time, leaves. So, there's a lot of detail that goes along with all the stuff that has been accomplished, and there's no reason, we're going to the League of Municipalities for all new ideas, and those will serve us well as well. So, I think that you really have to put the, put it out there, and start, interviewing these people. You might come across someone who can do 10 times more.
Phil, I find it hard to believe.
I don't believe that, Phil. But I do think it's like writing a contract, a specification for a contract. You don't do it right the first time, you run into all kinds of problems later. I know I really didn't. I got this, on Thursday, Friday. There's been a lot of stuff since then. I haven't had a chance to look at it and make sure that it incorporates at least some of the things that have been expressed by the merchants and others. So that's one of the reasons why I'd like to do it. It's very critically important, I think, that we have the right specification. We start out with that.
Committee, what's your pleasure?
Currently, there is no motion.
No motion.
Yes.
I withdrew my motion.
We table it?
If you wait until the next time we meet, Rodney,
Push the table.
it really begins to limit the time frame.
I think so, too.
And, anyone that we interview, Michael's been working hard on this, and with Phil, and, he has the time to really, he knows what we need in this community and what we need going forward. So I would make a motion to begin the process of authorized to advertise for Community Development Director.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and second. Rita, give me a roll call vote.
Yes. Mr. Gishard?
I say no. I'd like to table this myself and have a chance to take another look at it, or take a look at it.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
I say no. I agree with Rodney.
Mayor Schenker?
No.
Motion is defeated, 3-2.
There we go.
Let's move on. Oh, okay. To number 9, approvals, minutes of October 15, 2018, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. B, minutes of November 7th, 2018, special meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the ayes have it. C, payroll and bills. Bill list total $2,618,269.42.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion. Rita, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Schenker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Reports, Mr. Administrator.
Nothing to add to my written report.
Mr. Solicitor?
Nothing.
Right. Mr. Engineer.
Yeah, Mayor and Committee, I have a few items. First, I want to talk about the road program we started a couple of weeks ago. If you've been on 32nd Street across from Atlantic Electric, you can see there's a pretty extensive drainage system that we put in. There's a low point on 32nd Street that road used to flood. I was out there today, as I mentioned earlier, and it seems to be working as designed, so I'm pretty happy about that. The contractor, Lambert Construction, then moved over to Denmead. That's the exit driveway at Oakcrest High School. It's about 1,700 linear feet that goes out to Cologne Avenue. He completed that work last Thursday and Friday. We've been fortunate that there was no school Thursday and Friday, so that worked out well. A lot of coordination with Oakcrest High School, and they were very happy. Then this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning, we moved to Babcock. We did section paving at 4 intersections. We're very pleased so far with that. We wish we had more money on all of these roads. We would have done more, but that's where we are to date. Monday morning, the contractor is going to move to Old Egg Harbor Road. He's going to mill Old Egg Harbor Road on Monday and pave it on Tuesday. And that's from Hearst to Route 50. He's then going, right after Thanksgiving, he intends to go over to Cates Road and do curbing at the intersection of Cates and the Black Horse Pike. The curbing he's going to do is widen that intersection by about 4 feet. We can't go any wider because there's some utilities, DOT utility boxes there. We're going to widen that, and we're hoping to get more of a right turn lane coming out of Cates going out to 322. So that widening will take place. The full length of AutoZone, all the curbing that's at AutoZone will be removed and placed back 4 feet. He's then going to go to 11th Street. 11th and Adams is in town here. It's a small intersection where there's been a drainage and paving issue around at that intersection. He's going to take care of that. And then he's going to go to Pennington. Now we're going to do curbing on Pennington, and he'll pave Pennington north and south. So we're optimistic. We hope the weather, stays, in our favor, so we can finish this job pretty quickly.
So I'm sorry. No, I just want to say that the people in Fairways are going to be very happy about that, Gates Avenue.
They're going to be inconvenienced for about 2 days, but in the end, I think they should be pretty happy.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot of coordination with the police department. Wade Smith's been in contact with me 2 or 3 times a day. Safety comes first. We've had safety control plans in place, traffic control plans, and we've worked hard to kind of keep the traffic moving and keep it safe.
Okay.
Tavistock was on my list. We talked about that. Construction projects, Buffalo Pike Associates, they finished the final paving Thursday and Friday of last week. They've striped the parking lot. I had them close the road for about a day and a half. They had to remove the cones, and I noticed some of the residents that live back in Volunteer Way in Eaglesmere were kind of meandering through that roadway. I talked to Mike about this. I'd like to get Kevin Dixon, our traffic consultant, to get another set of eyes on that. There's some striping to do on that Renaissance Drive that's going to go through, and I'm recommending to the contractor Buffalo Pike that they put some signs up at some of those stub pieces. We don't want anybody sort of meandering, if it's raining heavy or snowing, we don't want them to leaving the road surface. So I'm going to have Kevin Dixon take a close look at that road before we, let's say, officially open it up. And I'll let committee know. I'm sure the committee's going to want to get involved with the opening of that road. And, Buffalo Pike is telling me before the Christmas season that they're hoping to get the one store open, which will be the Starbucks and the mattress store. We still don't know who's in the middle. They officially haven't told us who the second pad site is, but they keep insisting that's they're waiting for signed contracts. Outback Steakhouse is moving at a snail's pace. It's very, very slow progress on Outback Steakhouse. Artist Walk, they're under construction on another section of roadway, and they sent in a request yesterday to me to inspect 7 completed homes in the last 2.5 weeks. So when Ryan Homes went under contract with Paparone, they really are moving housing construction along back there in Artist Walk. So things are picking up in the housing market.
Speaking of Artist Walk, was there an access road from Artist Walk into the back of the fairways?
I don't know the answer to that. I do not.
That came up in a discussion.
I do not know, but I will find out.
Yeah,
I know there's
either that or is it
sections
just
to
a
be
fire
completed.
lane access or something?
There is an access. It's not a dead-end subdivision. There is an access. I just don't recall where that connects into.
Okay.
But I will let you know.
Thank you.
Steve, a question for you. the entrances and exits from Tavistock onto 40 and Meadowbrook, they both share a similar problem of being almost extremely difficult to make left turns onto Route 40. Now, I know that's, you probably don't have any answers, but
I do.
you do. Okay, great.
When we met with Lou and the association, they asked if we could do two turn lanes, a right turn lane and a left turn lane when you're leaving.
Oh, so they're
There's
not
gonna
all,
be a stop bar, painted stop bar, and we placed a stop sign on both sides of that road to make it safe. So, and there's going to be a striped line down the center with a right turn arrow and a left turn arrow. So as you approach the highway, the State Highway 40 there, you're either going to get in the right turn lane or the left turn lane, and you'll have a stop sign and a stop bar for safety to make sure you stop.
If you want to make a left turn, though, you still have that.
Based on the amount of traffic, you're going to have a difficult time.
yeah, but you split it in half.
Yeah, very, very difficult time.
Right. I don't know how I could fix that.
And the same is true with Meadowbrook. They have the same problem.
Yeah, but at least if you have the cars divided into a right lane and a left lane, you're going to reduce the number of people lining up.
Yeah, Lou and the association said to me, when you want to make a right-hand turn, and if somebody's in front of you, sometimes you have to wait a long time, whereas a right-hand turn
Yeah, I can
is
understand
sometimes
that.
simple to make.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Okay, thank you.
Just a few other minor items. Two new street opening permits were issued. They seem to be slowing down with South Jersey Gas. Under miscellaneous, Brett Knoll and I met with Gaudelli Brothers on October 23rd. They're the ones that were awarded the contract for the chiller outside. We sort of had a pre-construction meeting and a review of the timing. They've ordered the equipment sometime in the month of January is when that chiller's going to be installed. It's probably about a 3-week project, so we shouldn't be up against a time where we won't have air conditioning in the building. The last item, at last committee meeting, Anne Marie Leone was here, and I said I would turn any information over to Kevin Dixon, and I've done so. I spoke to Kevin twice. I know Anne Marie's here tonight. I really can't say too much because I'm in a conflict because I've done work in the past and for Fernmore, so I can't say too much, but whatever records I had, I've turned them over to Kevin Dixon. I just wanted to pass that on.
Okay.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody have any questions? Township committee members. Judy?
On Monday, I attended the Veterans Day program, and the program itself was just wonderful. However, there was not the attendance that it should have been there on that wonderful day. And I think what we have to do, as I heard everyone really complain about this, is that they have notified the press, the Current, and other entities that this was occurring, and this happens with other things that happens in the Memorial Park. They don't get recognized or advertised by the newspaper, or just listed. So if we can work a little harder with our, like our veterans, to advertise or to make sure that these things are placed in the newspaper. I don't know the answer. If there is a way, whereas if there's a will, there's a way always, but it's been a long time, according to Mr. Davenport, that they just don't get recognized, and Mays Landing should get recognized. So I'm putting it to our administration to try to reach out to the press and express their not disgruntlement, but perhaps encouragement, because we as a entity were advertised in that way, and we want more people to come to our place. We want, and more businesses. So the press has to be notified. And I would say that the honor and remember presentation to Robert J. Campbell was unbelievable, the number of things that he has accomplished in our community. I didn't realize that he was so involved. And the same thing with George Osby and, of course, Lou Green. So I appreciate all the work that the veterans did to make that presentation. Rodney did a very good job in, introducing everyone. Also, I know it's not commonly known that the Girl Scouts rented or were able to use the VFW to put together little care packages for the homeless. And they concentrated on toiletries. And I think that was a very, very good project. It certainly should be recognized. And that is it.
All right, thank you, Judy. John?
I just want to start by thanking Steve again real quick for staying on top of this road program. It's good to see that work going on out there. I hope we get a break in the weather where they can continue to on their plan to get this finished. It's great. Thank you. And then I want to reiterate a little bit on what Judy said. The Veterans Program was a great program this year. I wish we would have had better attendance, but this year we did it on a Monday, and we just didn't seem to have the attendance that we probably should have had there. But it was a great program, and they followed up at the VFW up here with some refreshments and food. So they did a great job preparing for it. We just didn't get the numbers out that we would have liked to see compared to previous years. Also, I want to touch on the advertising too, like Judy had mentioned. The Veterans Day program, I understand all the contacts were made. We didn't get any press on that. Also, we have the largest Halloween parade in the state of New Jersey. It's done well thanks to Fred Nebels and his crew for years. And the Halloween parade was excellent, but it didn't even make the Current. I'm really surprised at that. But the Current is owned by the press. So I think we need to be a little more diligent about pressing people at the papers to see about getting some type of coverage. I'm very surprised we didn't get some pictures or press on the Halloween parade. It was an exceptional parade. And thank you, Fred. And that's really about it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Roger?
Speaking about the Halloween parade, and again, Fred, we talked about the numbers were there. I said we got to have a lot of compliments for the police department also. The amazing thing every year when you see that number of people in our town, and it had to be between 4,500 and 5,000 people.
Absolutely.
The amazing thing about it is 20 minutes after the parade is over, traffic is gone, everyone dissipates, it's like nothing happened, and it speaks volumes about how well this is run. So kudos again to the merchants and to the police department for making sure that everybody's safe and the operation is handled well. The other thing I want to remind everybody, November the 24th is the tree lighting ceremony in the War Memorial Park. Hopefully many of you will get out to it. We always seem to get a good gathering there. Judy and John, I think one of the issues that occurred over with this ceremony in the park for Veterans Day, a lot of towns had it the day before, and the schools were open that day. So a lot of people went back as if there was nothing going on, which is really a shame, as you said, and it's unfortunate it occurred that way. Even the Fall Festival, which we had this year, was windy, cold, and the date was moved, and of course, not as many people attended as they could. It was set up very nicely, but it's just a shame. We talk about the police department, and every month when I get the police department report, I wonder if the public understands what a job these men and women in our department, along with the dispatch center, do. October calls for service were 4,746 calls. Year-to-date, we're over 47,000 calls the police department gets for various things, and it's broken down. Motor vehicle accidents, there could have been well over 130 of them this past month. And that's significant when you look at the amount of time that it ties our officers up at a scene, not to mention the EMS, the fire department. So we're fortunate to have all these public safety people in our community because they do a job that just goes on every day, and it's recognized, and we appreciate it. So statistically, I think you're probably going to run close to 50,000 calls this year, Chief. And I think that's a number that, when you look at the staffing that you have and the number of people that you have to work with, it's very significant. So thank your department. And I thank everybody for having their patience with the police department, too. They do a great job. Thanks, Mayor.
Rodney?
I certainly like to second just about all the remarks that were made regarding the veteran ceremony, and just say I do not believe people have lost interest in the veteran ceremony. I think it had everything to do with the date it was held, Monday, a work day, and with other factors. But I just want to thank everybody that was associated with that. And the Fall Festival, again, that's already been mentioned, so I won't dwell on it. Do want to comment, though, I participated in the Ghost Walk, and for people, did I scare anybody? For people that haven't participated in that, I was really surprised at that. It was really a lot of fun, and my goodness, this place is so rich in history. It's really amazing. Again, the date had to be moved. I think initially they were anticipating 500 people to come and witness this. It turned out, because of weather and because of the date change, it was only 131, and also advertising probably has something to do with it also. But I will tell you, I froze out there. I was standing on a corner by myself in the dark, coming from behind a post to scare people. But I froze. I wanted to go join the walk when the last group went by, but I was so cold I wasn't up to that. It was great though, and I would certainly recommend it for next year for those that can make it. And there's an historical walk also, and I think you'd enjoy that too. I attended the New Jersey League of Municipalities meeting today. It's always an opportunity to learn all kinds of things and what's going on in the rest of the state. And it's always amazing to see all the exhibitors there and all the different kinds of trucks there are. My goodness, there must be 200 different kinds of trucks. I think that's just one thing on Halloween, I have to say also, this seems like the biggest Halloween we've had. I don't know whether that's true or not, but the quality of many of the floats also was just amazing. I mean, they were professional, many of them. So it's really something that I think should be the pride of our town, and I thank the merchants and others who help with us. Thank you. That's all I have.
Could I make one little correction? It is the Rotary Club.
Rotary, yes, that's right.
Has been running it for how many years, Fred? 64 years. So it is the Rotary Club.
Sorry about that. You mentioned
Rotary and
and then we work together.
Same people.
Yeah, we work together, but it is Rotary. Okay.
She used to be president at one time. That's why she's sensitive.
And then we had the most terrific Halloween parade.
Okay. Fred, thank you from all of us. The Halloween parade is the highlight of the year, without a doubt. And I want to thank the Public Works for trimming the trees back, because that one float with the flames coming out of the top, every year I watch and see if it's going to light the whole neighborhood on fire. So far, we've been good. good time had by all, a great event. It is the crown jewel of this town, and we appreciate what you do, and thank you very much to the Rotary and the Merchants Association. I don't want to go over everyone else's comments with my own, so I'm going to move on to something a little bit different. The Hamilton Knights taxi team, the little guys, they won the championship this past Saturday, and I can imagine that they were very excited. For those of you who follow different things on Facebook, there was a lot of videos and a lot of excited kids, and you know, this is football season, so I've spent a lot of time at our youth organizations, the HYAA Knights and the Mays Landing Lakers games. And the Lakers Pee Wee team this Saturday, last Saturday we were out there and it was frigid. This Saturday they will be playing for the championship of their respective divisions. So I hope if they're all successful, maybe we can get them in here one night. Maybe we can get them in here at the same night, so to show a little bit unity in this town. Also, the Knights JV team, I believe it's the week it's not this week, it's the following weekend, is also going to play for a championship. So we got a lot of talented kids in this town, and they're doing very well. The Lakers JV had lost to be bumped out of the playoffs, so we have some good teams, and you know, this is what's important in our town, to keep these kids busy and keep them out of trouble, and help to develop good citizenship and sportsmanship. So that's all I have. I'll open it up to the public for public comment. Anne Marie?
Good evening, Anne Marie Leone. I'm at 1305 Old Egg Harbor Road. I heard Mr. Gashard and everybody talk about the explosives that they're using at the tech center, and they got a little blip on the agenda, and here I come. I think this is my 5th meeting. I know you turned over stuff to Kevin Dixon, but I've got to say, I had a conversation finally with him last Monday, and that was after I had seen Phil in his office the Friday before saying, who do I talk to in this building, because I still haven't heard from Kevin Dixon. Kevin's comments to me are a little bit disheartening for the following reasons. He asked for proof that that basin hasn't drained in 30 days. Part of that resolution that you all approved for them to modify that building plan over there, is that supposed to be monitored? It hasn't been monitored yet. He has photos from me personally from October 12th until last, when I had my engineer on the phone with him, till last Wednesday. That basin has never drained whatsoever. He got a little bit defensive and basically asked my engineer to do his job. I want the township to start stepping on the neck, so to speak, of Fernmore and the Homeowners Association. That basin, there's a state code, is supposed to drain in 3 days, 72 hours. It's not a reasonable amount of time. It is state code. It has not drained. It's worse now that they did their fix last November. I've asked for Oprah documents, and some of them I've been told that either don't exist or to ask Kevin. Kevin got even more defensive when I asked him for those documents. I'd like to see a report from Kevin showing that he's monitored that basin, because quite honestly, for me to have to prove to him that that hasn't drained tells me he hasn't driven by once to monitor that basin if he's the engineer of record to do that. I get that I'm one single homeowner, but the state law, my engineer has a simple question about the soil certification. That's a soil certification permit and conservation permit that has to be pulled. That permit is still open from 2005. 2005, we're talking 13 years. And that basin, just so you know, and the reason why I'm a little bit, I'm not a blip on your little agenda, I've been coming to this township building since 2005. The first person I reported that basin to was Nancy Rainbow. All right? I want the township to please start. Kevin says to me, what do you want me to do? Send him a letter, fix the basin? Yes. Yes. There's got to be a letter. It's got to come from you guys, because quite honestly, from a police officer's perspective, that I have to keep coming in here, and I asked Phil, hey, I still haven't heard from Kevin. It's funny, I talked to Phil Friday. Kevin left me a message on Friday. I've been here at least 5 times. Why is this so difficult? I have no problem sharing data. I've given it to Steve back in April and May, for Pete's sake. We're now in November. How come I can't even get one letter? You're willing to write a letter to the governor for the bombing stuff. One letter for something that you guys actually have leverage over. That is something that you guys passed a resolution on, and it's failing in state code. And I can't even get the township to write a letter to tell either the homeowners firm or whoever owns it at this point, fix the damn basin. It's still full. It's worse today because we just had all that rain. But October 12th, that was just a sample I gave them. October 12th, and we're at what date? And it hasn't drained once in 72 hours. Can I please get I'll meet with you guys. I don't care, but something's got to happen with the township. The township has a responsibility to me as a homeowner too, because you guys have the governing body over this stuff. You guys have passed a resolution so they can build a bigger house on these lots. Like Mr. Silva's asked me about a lawsuit. That is regardless. I could come in here and complain if that doesn't drain in 3 days because it's creating mosquitoes, wildlife. There's fish in that area, for Pete's sake. All I ask is for some time from you guys. No disrespect to Mr. Jacobs, but I really need somebody in this building that I can go to, since he is very conflicted. He lives there, and if I'm not mistaken, he may even be a member of the homeowners board. I need somebody in this building to talk to, and now Phil's retiring. This is like a broken record, me coming in here every day, but drive down Old Egg Harbor Road. Come down in 3 days and see if that thing drains. From today, I can guarantee you it won't be drained in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. All I ask is you actually, somebody here say to Kevin Dixon, oh, and the other thing is he said he was going to send an email. It's just as good as certified mail. No, it's not. No, it's not. Anybody could say that they sent an email. I feel like, I have to be Inspector Clouseau here and pick up everything and be like, hey, guys, this is what's going on. I don't want to be coming to these meetings, and I don't want to be tying up your time. But at the same time, my house is destroyed. Destroyed. 11 inches of water. I mean, you guys had to reduce my tax. Go look at the tax assessment on my house. Talk to the tax assessor. He was in my house when it was first built, and it was beautiful. He had to come in there and take pictures, and his actual words were, I don't even know what to do with this. He took pictures of it. My house assessment went from $350,000 to $125,000. So you tell me here, as a taxpayer, yeah, I may be just one taxpayer, but can I please get you guys to get Kevin to send a letter and get them to fix it? And guess what? They can't open permits at that point either. I think that will get some attention from both the homeowners association and the builder to do something about this. Regardless of my basement, this is still an overall issue that the township has some responsibility over.
Okay. So Michael, you're conflicted. I guess I got to go to Phil and our solicitor to, where do we go from here? What can we do to help out here? This is an ongoing problem. It's not getting any better. The last time I sat here, we sent this in the direction of Kevin Dixon. It doesn't seem to have worked out. So what do we got? I'm part-time here. You guys are full-time. Tell me where we go.
Asking me?
Either one of you at this point. I don't know what to say.
I have not been involved directly with this particular issue. I viewed it as an engineering/zoning issue, enforcement issue. I could certainly give you an opinion, but I'm not prepared to sit here tonight and do that.
Okay.
Because I just don't know the facts. I
All right.
don't know the case.
Bill?
Bill, have you contacted Kevin at all?
Yes, I spoke with him Friday.
Is he going to do anything?
He spoke with Anne Marie's engineer. They did go out and they...
Bill, could you come up to the mic so everyone can hear you, please? Thank you.
He did have the conference call last week with Anne Marie and her engineer. and did go out and started the monitoring the next day. I'll check with him tomorrow and, see if he has the results from what happened before the rain this week, or today. And have him notify Fernmore of the need to go back to remediate the basin one more time.
Okay. Can we have a report on this, the next meeting?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Anne Marie, one question. Do any of your neighbors, are they experiencing the same difficulty that you know of?
The problem is if you look at my house, I'm dead smack in the middle of two neighbors. My one neighbor has a crawl space, so no, they have absolutely, and they would be in the bulk of the basin as well. My other neighbor to the left, and if you do Google Earth, you can see this. He's on the very corner of that basin, meaning it has to get to a certain level, and then yes, it does start to affect him. But he's also made a comment: if my pumps go, he starts getting the water even more when he normally wouldn't. The problem lies in the fact that, he's had different water issues as far as that's concerned, but he built his house knowing that I had this ongoing issue. He built after I did, and he is a friend of mine, and he built it 1.5 feet higher than my house. And when I originally did this, I was 2.5 feet above the seasonal water table. Now, I can't talk about the past stuff with this, but what I try to express to Kevin, and what Kevin has to understand at this point, the old litigation, we can't talk about it, but it's settled. The triggering event is them now fixing this, and the fix is worse than it originally was. So it boils down to that. And I had Kevin when I talked to him, he said he wanted my engineer to dot the I's across the T's to prove it was the basin. Regardless of whether the basin is, let's just say for all intents and purposes, whether the basin is or isn't, the basin still has, the township and the Fernmore and the homeowners have an obligation that that's supposed to drain in 72 hours. I'm now here because of that fact that that's been an open case now that Fernmore wants to build these houses. It's now my leverage, so to speak, to get them to finally address this basin and get it done. I mean, I've never heard of such craziness since 2005 that there's no as-built to that basin. There's absolutely no as-built, so nobody knows if it's built to the original specs that it was supposed to be. I'm probably going to get told that nobody knows if it's built to the actual plans that they submitted to fix the basin. And that seems to be like this running little game. And that's, he's told me when it gets to a certain level, and he's been lucky it hasn't gotten that level. We're getting close now where it's going to probably affect him. If you come out, it's like a big finger, and once it gets towards the end of the tip of it, it does start creeping towards his property. But if you do Google Earth, he's really blessed in the fact that he's not even near that basin. Like his property corner is like here, and that's where it ends. I unfortunately am just smack dab in the middle of it. So,
do we have as-builts on the basin over there from the original developer? The one before Fernmore?
No, the as-bills have not been submitted yet. It's still under performance guarantee.
Do they exist?
That we don't know. Those are typically turned over to the township when they want the release of their performance
Answer a question.
guarantee.
The original basin, was that built as dry or wet?
That was built as supposed to hold water.
Hold water.
And then with the overflow area being towards the south.
And that's the one you're referring to?
So what's called a detention basin is what is across from me. So typically it's supposed to be dry. The area that's supposed to be wet is over by the community center and has the fountain going off and that. So it's supposed to be dry in front of my house.
You said that Kevin offered to write an email, which you didn't feel to be satisfactory.
I actually feel like I feel like he said it in a bit of anger. Like, what do you want me to do? Write them an email or write them a letter? He goes, I'll send them an email. And that was the actual gist of the conversation. I actually got off the phone call because to be honest with you, my head wanted to blow off of my shoulders because it was like banging my head in the wall where he was telling me I needed 3 monitoring wells and all this other stuff. You know, I have a monitoring well to try to figure out how to fix my house. I can't even try to fix my house, you know, because of, you know, as I stated before, I can't get an engineer, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, no engineer is going to go in and try to design a proper fix to that house, because that basin is always going to be an issue because it's not fixed. If that basin drained in 3 days, I could take all the data from my monitoring well, give it to an engineer, and they could come up with some type of fix. But until that happens, I can't do that. That's part of the biggest problem, and this has been an ongoing thing. I was actually getting to the point of hopefully getting that way until they came out and ripped out all the vegetation and started this construction, because I had had enough data where my engineer could look at it and see where, you know, where this was affecting my house. And just for the record, and I want this clearly stated, unless that basin has water in it, you know, that's the only time I have water in my house. When it's dry, I'm dry. I built this house in 2004, and the township back then did not know anything about superior walls. And when they didn't know anything about superior walls, it created a huge delay in my construction. So from January until the middle of May, I had no basement floor. It was all stones. Never had any water in it, never had any issues. Never even had a water in the crock, because they have to put a sump pump in anyways when you build a basement. And that's part of the code. But at any rate, I never had any water until this basin. I'll never forget it, April 5th, 2005. I went downstairs to play pool, and my sump pump lid's floating. And I walked outside, couldn't find a source. I didn't realize that that basin had filled with water for the first time they had finished constructing it. You know, I have friends that I'm very thankful they take me in, because I get a lot of stress from this thing. And I apologize. I know you guys see me standing in the back, and it has nothing to do with anything else, but the seats are very uncomfortable, and I had back surgery, so it kind of is a very uncomfortable sitting sometimes. So I do want to apologize. I don't want anybody thinking I'm just kind of standing in the back of the room, kind of waiting for it to swoop down. But
it sounds to me like you're not only, and you're pumping the water out that's coming from the basin, adding to the problem with the pumping water, you're just circulating water. And that seems to me that has to be addressed. Absolutely.
Yeah, the water goes out to the back of my property. I have it going out to the side on one side where it goes, unfortunately, towards my neighbor. Shh, don't tell him. He might get a little angry with me. But the other part of it goes in my backyard. I now call it affectionately Lake Leone. You know, I joke around about my water feature in the basement. But I do have to say the rest of the staff here has always been courteous, and they've always been helpful. Like the tax assessor's office, everybody else here has always been helpful, and I do appreciate it. It's just, you know, I just want a point of contact that if I'm having an issue here, that I can come talk to. I understand Phil's retiring and all, but, you know, moving forward.
Not retired yet.
He hasn't retired yet, but, you know, I'm just hoping that, you know, we can get Kevin to send that letter out ASAP and certified, not email, because somebody can say it went to their spam folder or anything else. I work for the government, so, you know, we do everything 3 bids and everything's certified, so right. I'm a firm believer in that. So I would appreciate any help if you guys can get on him to send out that letter and have them address that, and maybe, I think he was even saying something that it can address the fact that they can't even pull permits, and like, this is, something's got to give here. And as I addressed before, it's going to leave the homeowners kind of holding the bag, because once Fernmore pulls out and they're done building houses, they're still the ones, and I have to believe at this point Fernmore paid for the thing, but they still own it. It's so confusing. Welcome to my world.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Do they have, they still have a performance bond on that the whole development itself, so, okay. All right, anyone else in the public like to speak? Brad?
All right, we had the greatest Halloween parade, and the corrections are at 5,000 to 7,000 people watching it, and that we had over 1,100 people inside the parade. Big crowds. We have a big concern at this point. This time around, Ingrid gave me a pamphlet, and it had some things about responsibilities of a parade. And I was reading through this pamphlet, and we have to make a lot of adjustments for next year, because bringing 7,000 to 8,000 people into that narrow street and no place to go
with no barriers to keep them in place is becoming a problem. We can have a real problem with a kid getting run over. We haven't had it in 64 years, but we escaped that. But when is it going to happen? Fire things coming out of the things. The one thought that I had, there was a thing in that pamphlet about something exploding, and what happens when something explodes on 8,000 people. So there's some adjustments that we have to make in this parade, and I'm going to need a little help this year on figuring out how we keep people in place, and some of the things that I need to know when people apply for to come into the parade with a float. Is it a safe float? Does that fire-breathing dragon safe enough, or is it going to explode? You know, and that's a concern. And do they have insurance and for this as well? So I'm going to have to write a playbook. But unfortunately, I'm not a guy that writes playbooks for parades, so I need a little help. I'll put together my action plan, but I'm going to need help from the township to find out what's legal and what's not legal, and how do we keep people safe on this parade. It's a great parade. We don't want to downsize it.
Absolutely.
And the marketing is what causes the amount of people coming. The marketing's unreal. If you want somebody at your Veterans Parade, you need a marketing person.
It seems the later it gets, the more the kids start to bottleneck that street where they come further.
Yeah, they're pushing in.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree. It's because of the candy. I mean, do you get rid of the candy?
All right, I was one of them.
Yeah. You know, and I write when somebody signs up, they get an email and it gives them all the rules. You got to walk the candy over, that kind of thing. But they don't. Our fire department doesn't even do it. You know, so we have a little bit concerns.
Okay.
If we can figure out a way to keep people at bay, yeah, and that's what we need to do. And so we could think about it a little earlier this year. So we can get maybe some things, like if we get some more barriers or some cheaper barriers. I know we're not going to do all water-filled barriers, but if we get something to keep a line there and then figure it out cheaply how we can do it and cost efficient, then maybe that will help out.
Definitely worth a discussion to try and correct what's going on. I noticed it this year. And
it's gotten, with that amount of people. I mean, when there's only 4,000 people, it wasn't as bad. 7,000 people, it gets a little worse. You know, it was 4 to 7 deep all the way down to Farragut, which was never happening before. But
You'll also have to plan for when the bridge goes out, where you're going to stage everything.
Well, I got it all figured out.
Okay, I'm glad. I figured as much.
It's there, but we just need to do something about that, and it was a little concerning when I got that pamphlet from Ingrid, and it just puts up a lot of concerns at this point. So I'll get through a little bit of a playbook in the next month and a half, and then maybe I can sit down with somebody to maybe figure out some of the ways of keeping things a little more organized.
Two thoughts on that. Ingrid is of course our JIF representative. Does the JIF or can the JIF offer any help, or can the JIF, the Joint Insurance Fund?
We're insured. You know, as far as the Rotary Club,
I'm talking about our JIF. Maybe offering some pointers or something.
Yeah, there was I guess there was a lot of things in that book that I could read. And
I think that's where that pamphlet came from.
Yeah,
did come from Jeff.
But
and I'm also wondering whether whether the sources, with the federal government or maybe New York or someplace else that can offer some guidelines for situations like this.
Yeah, there was a lot of. In that booklet, there was a lot of contacts that could help us out with that. But it's going to need some kind of financial things to keep it, for barriers. That's a main concern this year. I mean, just try to get some more barriers or some way of figuring out how to keep these people from going into the street. In some locations, we'll not have to do the whole street, but if we get a little bit of each year, and maybe some stands or something.
Intersection and up to the judging platform seems to.
Yeah, it's really bad, and the police department can't even keep them back. I mean,
I see.
I shift them back, and then they just come right back out in the street again, and little kid gets killed. I mean, that's on us, right? So let's try to make sure it doesn't happen.
Sounds like we need a free consultant to help us with this. It requires some expertise, I would think.
Yeah, there is some things. I mean, there's like when
when they come in as a float, they need insurance policies. You know, I think that Atlantic City has some rules and regulations about floats on the boardwalk. I don't know if anybody knows anybody in Atlantic City that knows could get the hold of those kind of rules. Maybe we could play off of that or something. But,
Good point.
you know,
Yeah, I
just,
think we should try to-
but we need to do something now that it's getting that large. It's got to be a little more organized.
Very
Yeah,
good. Thank
I-
you.
All right, well, thank you for, you know, always your support, and your financial support is a big help. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think maybe some of the answers can be gotten from the League of Municipalities. They do everything.
That's a good point.
Talking to the right people, you know? So maybe that was something that we can explore in the next couple days as well.
Yes.
Stand on my toes.
Just name and address. That's all I need.
Jane Gurrier, 5908 Gaskell Street, Mays Landing. That address is smack dab in the middle of the historical area, even though my home is not historic. I'm talking about fixing roads. Our street is horrendous, and I've been there 36 years. Do I have to petition the Historical Society first before I ask for road improvements? Does anybody know?
No, we can put it on a list to look at for next year's.
I don't know, why can't we just look at it as part of a road program for next year?
That's what, yeah, that's what I just-
Put it on the list.
I never knew who to ask first. But my second question is, the $100,000 that's going to be borrowed to add to the road improvements, how is that going to affect the taxes? Because my taxes are didn't get raised this year, and I was hoping it would stay like that for the next couple.
It's not going to make them go down.
Well, we usually borrow about $500,000 a year. So this is just a part of it. Our program runs around $500,000 a year to $600,000. So that's just a part of next year's money.
And to the Halloween parade, which was phenomenal this year, there were pictures and a lot of stuff on Atlantic City Press online.
Okay.
It wasn't in the paper, true, but it was online.
Yeah.
Charlie Pritchard was upset about it too. He don't know why, because he took a lot of fabulous pictures.
Yep, he did say
It's
that.
unfortunate, because normally they always get in there.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
You
it's
had to
because
have
they're
it.
not selling papers like they used to, and everything is online now. But thank you for your time and your answers.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Mike DeGuglielmo, Horizons at Woods Landing.
Yeah, could you speak up?
My name is Mike DeGuglielmo. I live in Horizons at Woods Landing, along Old Lake Harbor Road, and actually concerned about something I came across, that the MUA is going to spend $2.5 million to rehab a building on Old Lake Harbor Road, which will increase traffic, and back to the same problem with getting off of Old Lake Harbor Road onto 40. It's supposed to be to increase performance. You buy a lot of phone calls with $2.5 million, but having to build a building, you just make a phone call, tell the guys what they needs to be done. So, and hearing all the money being spent all over the town for streets and everything else that needs to be done seems pretty ludicrous to spend $2.5 million. And it says it's going to put the other property back on the tax rolls. They have a buyer for it? We're going to have another abandoned building like the bank, the school on Farragut Avenue. It's just another abandoned building it's going to be, and you're going to have increased. Now, they spent $2.5 million. What's that going to do to the water rates in the town? Where suddenly their reserves are going to be depleted. They have to increase their rates and have their reserves. The $2.5 million could be used towards an emergency if a well goes out. And just expressing our discontent with it. I don't know if it's the right forum, if you have any control over it, but I just want you to know how we feel about it.
We expected the executive director to appear before one of our meetings here and explain to us what he's doing and what the plan is, and hopefully, you know, since they our utility in our township, and it was created by this township,
Right.
that they had somewhat of a good public relations thing to do, was come before committee and just tell us about what they were doing in regard to an expansion, especially on a road where there is going to be a lot of traffic. And
A lot of traffic,
a lot of
and you-
people are used to walking into that place in town. And, you know, I understand what you're saying, but it's something that should be discussed before committee.
Absolutely.
They're going to make their decision anyhow, but it should be nice to communicate that way.
Exactly.
We haven't had any discussion on this at all.
No.
So for that building to go on the tax rolls, we would have to accept it back. It's their building, not the township's building. So I think maybe there's a little bit of assumption in there that we would take this building back. You know, it's theirs to do what and you're probably right. If they move out of there, it will be another building that just gets demoed by neglect.
Exactly.
So.
Did you,
Also, the MUA director will be here at a future meeting to discuss those improvements that they want to do in their capital budget. And I think that will be an excellent time for you and anyone else who is concerned on what you just said to be here, because everyone's going to have questions for him. I know I do.
But you're also entitled to go to their meetings, you know.
that's what I was going to suggest, right?
Yeah, and I think it's good that people do that, because we've been very fortunate in this community. They keep the rates very low in control. If you saw about a month ago, the New Jersey American Water Company raised their rates 6 and some odd percent.
Right, almost
You could only
7%.
imagine what would happen if we didn't own that particular utility here, what would happen with the water rates.
Exactly. That's
But
why
as
I'm
far as
concerned
all the
that they're spending
infrastructure,
$2.5 million.
they got all their wells connected together, so if one goes down, they can still pump. It was good forethought on their part to be able to do that when they put in well 10. So I think a lot of good things can be anticipated out of the MUA.
I understand that they're doing a pretty decent
Do a
job
good
at it,
job.
but it's my concern with spending $2.5 million of money you really don't need to spend, and to use efficiency as a
No, I understand what you're saying.
premise is kind of silly. Go by a lot of phone calls to the guys over at the other facility, say, okay, go fix pump 6 or whatever the case may be, as opposed to moving everybody over there and
And
spending.
I
that
think
kind of
they've outgrown the building they're in. I mean, you could go over there one day and they'll show you. They use every useful space in there. And so was it time to expand and look for something different? Sure. But I'm sure they had that all researched out and studied.
Oh, I hope so.
I do.
Anyone else, the public, like to speak?
I'm glad you're waiting to advertise for the community development director. And I think you should take a little time, or a lot of time actually, to really study exactly what the position is. Our planning, our construction code, our law enforcement, or not law enforcement, but zoning enforcement is really inadequate. I think there's a conflict right now between the same person being economic development director, trying to bring business in, and the same person overseeing code enforcement. I think there's a direct conflict there. Which way do you go? Okay. You can't really enforce to the best of your ability while you're trying to bring businesses in. Both positions are important, but I don't think one person can do both. Our code enforcement has suffered for many, many years, maybe at this point, maybe 40, based on the previous person in charge and now. To give you one good example, the house on 7th Street that you just tore down, I think you spent maybe, I don't know, $30,000 or more. I think that's what the bid was. The reason I say that is because we have a property maintenance ordinance, which is designed to prevent the township from having to spend $30,000 to tear down a building. A couple months ago, I came in, I spoke to I addressed the house near our electric sign, or digital sign at the Sugar Hill. There's a house across the street as we speak. Okay, if it's raining out, there's rain going into that house. There's a tree laying on the back of the house, and it's very quickly going to become a liability to the township again. And you're going to have to spend more, and it's at a very prime location. So my point is, when you choose the next person, or persons, you have to be, I would suggest you're very strict on someone who's going to be proactive, because right now, you're hardly reactive. People can complain or send in complaints about zoning violations, and they're never addressed. And it's always finger pointing. Well, that's this person or that's that person. And it's a detriment to our township. Also, that person who is recommending applications go before the zoning board or the planning board. You know, I've had the pleasure of serving on the zoning board, and many times we've had applications come before the zoning board that were sent to us not complete, and it's really an embarrassment because we have to send the applicant away. A good example was at the end of 2nd Street. You know, and that turned into a where we got grants for the purchase of the property. That was sent to the zoning board with just a front yard setback. It was kind of embarrassing. Again, my point is we need someone there who understands the zoning laws, where to send the applications, and be more forceful in its own enforcement. Because it's going to begin to cost the township more and more unless you have the right person with the right qualifications overseeing planning and zoning, and then you want economic development, which you need, but you can't have the same person doing the same thing. So I'm glad you waited to study the problem a little more. All right, thank you.
Anyone else in the public like to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Motion for adjournment is in order. We're going to go into executive session.
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matter, which is exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, Hamilton Mall LLC versus Township of Hamilton, litigation. Be it further resolved that the governing body may reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight. Be it further resolved that the results of said executive session shall be made known as soon as the basis for confidentiality is no longer confidential.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second to go in executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it.
Can we make a motion to go back into the open?
Your motion?
So moved.
Second.
Your motion to go back to regular session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes have it.
For the record, the time now is, according to the clock there, 13 or 14 minutes after 9. We announced before we went into the executive session that we could possibly come out and take action in the reopened open session. I have walked out into the rotunda and outside in the front of the building. There is no one there there's one person there that is not interested in this meeting. He's waiting for the police department, and there's no other people out there. So with that, I would say for the record that the only matters that were discussed was that which was announced, the single piece of litigation pending in the tax court, and you can take it from there.
So we need a motion to give you
We have a resolution.
resolution.
I'll just read it. It's
Okay.
real short. Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton to authorize the Township Solicitor to sign the stipulation of settlement in the matter of Hamilton Mall LLC versus Hamilton Township, Tax Court of New Jersey, docket number 004788-2018.
I'll move that resolution.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second.
Before there's a vote on that, may I just state for the record, our municipal clerk and each of the 5 of you have received a copy of the actual stipulation of settlement.
Yes.
Yes.
And that is being incorporated into the resolution that has been made.
Okay, thank you. We need a roll call?
Yeah.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes,
All yes and carry.
thank you. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
A motion for adjournment is in order. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it.